En Kenton had tot die tijd Stan Levy gehad. En er zat een jonge drummer bij.
And everybody is dependent upon you for everything, and they don't usually help. You know, everybody, anything that goes wrong is always the drummer's fault. So, the guy plays a wrong note, the drummer did it. You know, if it doesn't swing, it's the drummer's fault. If the guy doesn't know the song, it's the drummer's fault. And so you get used to that. And after a while, there comes a day when you say, look, get off my back, you know. And the day you get to that, when you become to the point where you say, nothing is my fault. Everything that goes right is my fault. Everything that's wrong is your fault. When you get to that point, you're playing the drums. Then you're in good shape. And that's when nothing bothers you anymore. And except in my case, the weather, because I use calf skins on my heads instead of plastic. And it's the only thing that's ever bothered me. So, and I'll take that bother anytime, you know, so I don't mind. Now, I noticed so far, almost everywhere, and I noticed also here yesterday, the few drummers I heard yesterday, 3 or 4 I heard yesterday, and everybody played well, but it seems like everybody's having a problem with certain situations involving more anything is this instrument here, this one. It seems like it's a tom-tom holder, the bass drum, you know. And and that when I brought it to the attention of the young drummers who played yesterday that to play it, they all had a little trouble, you know. And of course, I'm hoping that they'll take care of that trouble by practicing a little bit. And today I'll show everybody just what the things you can do to learn how to play this. Just for the record, how many of you don't play your time on the bass drum when you're playing jazz?
I think nearly everybody.
Yeah, almost everybody. Now you're all wrong. You know, every one of you is wrong. And the only time I don't play my bass drum, the only time I don't play it is when the music says don't play it. I'm starting with this because it's the most basic instrument of all the instruments, of all the drums. Because this was the first, most important drum in a band. Now, did you ever hear a marching band coming down the street?
Sure.
Yeah. Now, picture that band marching down the street without the bass drum. What awful mess it would be, you know. It's the timekeeper. Figure your rock and roll music without the bass drum.
No rock.
Nothing. So how's jazz supposed to go? How's swing? How's any other kind supposed to go without the bass drum? You know? So that's why it's very important. That's why it's even when, you know, when they take the hole, put a hole in the front. Is there a hole in front of this drum? I didn't look. It's a whole head there?
No.
There's a head there, a hole in it. I didn't even look, but I can tell. Right here. I can hear a little ring. And that's what I want to hear, that ring. The whole idea of the bass drum is the pulse. It's a pulse, and it's the heartbeat of any kind of a rhythm section. Because the bass player, you know, when the bass player's playing, especially today now, the bass players today, in the old days, the bass players had to play time 4/4, and they played like bing, king, gong, 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 king, king, gong. That's all they played. And the guitar played time, but there was no amplifier, none. And the bass drums, of course, in those days were this big, you know. Now you had to play, if there was no bass drum playing, there would be no beat, there would be nothing, you couldn't hear anything. There would be nothing to hear at all. So the old time drummers had to play the bass drum, they had to play it. But a lot of them were so used to playing without a bass, because most jobs in those days, if you had a trio, you didn't have piano, guitar, and bass, or saxophone, piano, and bass, like today, or that kind of combination. In those days, you had a saxophone, a piano, and drums. No bass. In those days, the drummers did all the work, not the bass players. They didn't get any work. And in fact, there was very few bass players around in those days that really could play jazz. So, because it was still new. This is when I was coming up, when I was a little boy, back in the 30s, 20s, 30s. So, we had to learn to use that bass drum. You had to learn how to play it. Now, because the drum was that big, you know, it was loud, like a concert bass drum. And we didn't use muffling. You had to figure out ways of taking, you didn't want to put anything inside. Nothing to destroy the sound. And we had calfskin heads on it, and the drum would go boom, like a concert drum. So you had to figure out how to control it. Well, there's only one way you could do it. You had to do it with your foot. So you played soft. Some guys didn't. They played. You know, that didn't sound very good, but I found like that would be enough. You know, that would be it. That'd be good enough. You know, and the players I would play with would like that. So, you know, so that when you're playing dance music, we used to just play, you know, didn't have hi-hat either. And play for people dancing, just that much, you know. This is like, what I'm playing now is like society style dance tempos, you know. And you go to 4. Because we didn't have hi-hats yet. Hi-hats were not really in the scene yet, you know. And I had to learn how to play, you know. Didn't have ride cymbals because they were all too small. So you couldn't ride on them. So you had to play on the snare drum, you know. When you played a lot of, course we played the Dixie way, you know. I did all this stuff when I was a kid. I'm just explaining this, so acquiring a touch for this. All right, now we're getting into different times are coming on. The bass drums are getting smaller. We started to find out that you can put a strip in the bass drum, makes for a good sound. But I learned that you put a strip on the batter side, on this side. I know there's a strip on that side, but I never put anything on that side. My bass drum has nothing. Today I don't have anything at all on the bass drum. I just use toilet paper or a napkin, paper napkin with a little Scotch tape, and I just put it over here on the outside. And eventually, when it gets all ripped up and tear, you just take it off and put some more on. That's all. So it's very easy to do, and it gets exactly a beautiful sound that way. You know, and your drum is totally empty inside. There's nothing in there to rattle or anything like that. So it's clean. But now we got a bird. Remember Charlie Parker? I heard him. So the whole idea was to learn to control this instrument here, so that it works like a heartbeat. But, you know, it's the same as putting your hand on your, you know, if you put your hand over your heart, you can feel that pulse. But if you take it off, it's still going, but you don't feel it anymore. You know, so playing is like having your hand on your heart. You feel it. You can feel it through your hand, you know, and that's the whole idea this is supposed to get. It helps to feel more. It sends a feeling through a whole orchestra, the whole band, instead of an emptiness. Because nothing sounds worse, and that's why one of these guys here, nothing sounds worse than a rhythm section playing without that. It sounds like nothing. Because this instrument here, bass, is musical notes, but there's something missing from it. It's not a percussion instrument, so there's no percussion playing. That marching band coming down the street ain't marching. You dig? It's just not marching. There is no march, you know. And if the band, now you're playing a bass violin, or guitar or piano. These are musical percussion instruments. I mean, a piano is a percussion instrument, it's supposed to be, but let's face it, it's not. It's a piano, and it plays music. So, and the bass is a musical instrument. He's got to play notes, and he's playing with other horns, and these horns are, he's hearing it, and the tendency is to think musical along with them. So who's thinking about the time? You know, even he's got to play 1, 2, 3, 4, but he's still not thinking about the time, because if the brass wants to lay back, the tendency of the bass is to do the same thing. Because he wants a blend. He wants to be close to those bass trombones and the baritone sax and the low instruments that are playing with him, you know. Now, when he does that, where does the time go? It goes out the window, you know. So the drummer's sitting there playing with his cymbals, which has no control, because he can't control a band with just the cymbals. You need this damn thing right here. You got to have it. So, you know, and then from there, everything else becomes easy after that, because then this is your timekeeper right here, your foot, and then after that, everything is dressing. See, because what you do with your hands is dressing. This is not your timekeeping instrument. I mean, this you get a feel with this. You know, this is that metronome right here, and this is for dress, for sound. This is where you create you. This is what you look for to say, that's him or that's me. Up here, everything up here is you. Down here is necessary. This is what's needed. Because rock sounds terrible without a bass drum. It could sound pretty terrible with a bass drum now. But see, you know, but we don't have to worry about that much longer, because they got the machines now, so they don't need drummers anymore. See, the rock drummers can thank themselves for that. And why? Because they can't keep time. They get so busy worrying about all the other junk that they forgot about keeping time, because they never knew how to use the bass drum in the first place. So these jerks in the studios that run everything, they want perfect time. So they say, well, a machine can do that. So we don't need a drummer. We just get a machine. And that's what they got. The machine can't play jazz. So it can't play, and it's not human, and it can't play color, and it can't change it. It can't dress it up. All it can do is keep that horrible sounding time that it does. So, but what I want to show, you guys can help me with this, is, but first I'm just going to play, you know. So, I mean, you can hear the whole thing. So, you know, like, no bass drum. Fire to it all of a sudden, more intensity. That's all I'm doing. But I drop it out. I'll just kick with it. drop that out, oh, the whole bottom comes out. It's gone, Oh, that's why you should play it. Now you can see why it's better with it. Because it's nothing there otherwise. It's just empty, And even when you're playing kick piece, it's just empty. We'll do it with the rhythm, and you'll see you'll still see there's a difference. Just some blues, that's all. Okay? One, just blues, yeah, play it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not playing. Nicer it sounds when it's playing. He's still the predominant sound, but when that drops out, all of a sudden it gets real empty. All of a sudden it's air, and that's exactly all right. Now that's the bass drum lesson. Now the whole secret for you that don't, because you say I can't play it, is just sit at home when you get a chance. If you want, you can use a metronome. If you need one. And just sit there with your hands like this. Don't play anything. And just sit. And when you start out, you say, well, my foot's heavy. I can't play soft, Well, take everything out of the bass drum, nothing in it. Make sure there's nothing so it rings terrible. And get it to where it sounds like, where you can make it where there's no ring. And you press the pedal in. Don't play it like that. Don't do that. Press it against the head. And just sit there and do that. Just do it for 15 minutes, And keep doing that until it becomes to a point. And make sure your pedal is nice and loose. Now, you can't play it on a tight foot pedal. Now, if you say, well, I got to play a lot of rock gigs, you need the dead bass drum and you need that stiff foot pedal, then get another foot pedal. Then have 2 foot pedals. Then you need 2 foot pedals. And then with the bass drum, when you got the rock gig, you take the front head off anyway and throw the blanket in. And when you got a jazz gig, put the bass drum, put the head back on. It takes 2 minutes, And just use something in there. Don't go through a big routine with tape and all that stuff, because then you're making a mess out of your heads anyway. You never put that stuff on a drum. You don't need any of that. That's stupid. That's engineers. Pardon me. Well, you're not an engineer. That's an engineer's. Engineers today, they're trying to run the whole show. The engineers and the producers and the recordings. Everything they do is set up for recording, not for live playing. Live playing, the drums should be wide open. Even when you're playing rock, you get a better sound. And you can compete with those guitars real loud and all that noise better with open drums. And you don't have to play as hard, Isn't it silly to take a set of drums that's already nice and loud and ringing and open, and then tape them up so to kill all the sound, then you got to play as hard as you can to make them sound again. Does that make any sense? So then the engineer says, hey, it's okay, I got it. And he puts a mic here, and he puts a mic there, and he puts a mic there, and he puts a mic here, and he puts a hole in your head and puts a mic inside, He's messing with your drums. He gets it now. He's sitting out there, and you're playing, and he's making the sound. He's making the sound, not you. You're just beating on him. He's making the sound. See? And then you read about these idiots who are playing the rock, the big stars say, oh man, I trust my engineer, he takes care, he tunes the drums for me, he does this for me, he does that for me. You know, why don't you let him take your women and take care of that for you too? You know? He could do that for you also, you know. You know, he could eat your food, he could wear your clothes, you know. He might as well live your life because that's what he's doing. This is your life. He's doing it, you know. So when you read about like a great drummer, supposedly like Steve Gadd, to me, he's a stupid man. He's stupid. He's not a great drummer. He's a good drummer. He's very good. But he's not great, because if he was great, he wouldn't allow that. When you're great, you're above that. You don't allow that. You say, you will get my sound. You're an engineer, you will reproduce what I do here. And you will make it sound like me on that record. Not I will sit here and work everything and then you'll make it sound like you. And I'm doing the playing. And then they say, that's all right, then we don't need you, we'll use the machine. You say, then use the machine. You know, then use the machine. I won't program it. You say, all right, we don't need you, well, we'll program it. So the result is, if he programs it, you got to pay him, and he can make it do some tricks, which will always be the same each time, so he can never change anything. But if he walks out the door, the engineer does it, all the engineer knows how to do is boom, boom, cow, boom, boom, cow. That's all he knows how to do. And that's what you hear on the records, you know. So sounds like hell, and eventually people are really getting sick of that. So but at least you have your pride, you know. No money, but you have your pride. But if everybody would do that and keep doing it, pretty soon we won't have those engineers either. Machines are going to be gone, you know, just like a lot of other things. So anyway, that's the exercise for the bass drum. That's the whole reason for all of that. And I went through all this just so you understand. And just do that, you know, just sit, you know, and spend some time getting a feel for it until it feels everything is set so it's comfortable for you, so that when you have to play a jazz gig or a dance gig or something with it's a non-rock gig, you can do it, you know. See, because if rock music is just a style of music, that's all. We all got to play it once in a while. I hate it. I don't like rock music because I got to conform to everybody. Everything's worked out. To me, it's no fun to play dead drums and all that and get that sound. See, if I can't do it my way, I don't want to do it. So I don't do it, because you can't do it your own way. They don't want you to. I read it every day. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You gotta, you know, and you. So you're talking about songs. You ever see a drummer say, "Oh yeah, we learned the song." Whatever happened to the word arrangement? About learning an arrangement, it's not a song. But I found out that's what they do. They learn a song. Actually, make up a song. Whatever amount of bars the song is. Then it's, well, let's see. I'm going to play this on this bar. Oh, well, then I'll play that on that bar. You know, what is that? You know, what if you want to play something else every time you play it? Well, you can't do that because it'll throw. That means you got to play so you rehearse for a year in a garage somewhere with a group, and you finally get 10 songs down so you can go do a job, and then when you go in, you got to play them after playing it. Who wants to hear it again? I mean, who wants to even bother with that? That's not even playing. Machines will do that. That's much easier. I'm trying to convince you all you should learn to play. Make sure you learn to play jazz. Then you can play anything. If you're a good jazz player, you can do anything. There's nothing in the world you can't do, except get rich. But if you're stupid enough to want to be a musician, that's what you got to pay for that anyway. Because music is probably the greatest non-paying profession in the world. It's okay, you make a living though.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
You told us about using bass drum in jazz music, but when I think about modern jazz and I think about the record we made, Memories and Friends,
Yeah.
we also play that beat too.
Yeah. On the end. Yeah.
And I learned it, and but I still can do it in modern jazz.
Sure you can.
It doesn't.
I did it. I did it on the record. I was playing my bass drum all through that whole record and every other record I've ever made. All that, whatever I was playing, whatever you heard, whatever I was doing in that record, behind anybody at any time, I was playing that bass drum always. But see, by making the engineer, see now when I did the little thing by myself, naturally you could hear that bass drum. When I was playing with Ron Carter, you could feel it. And on that one, we did that walk thing, that blues, you know, where we got like a little 8-piece, like where you got 4 horns in the rhythm section. I purposely told the engineer, I want to hear the bass drum on the record. I really wanted to hear it. He said, really? I says, yeah, I want to hear it. I want to hear that along with that bass. I wanted to hear Ron Carter walking, and I wanted to hear my foot with it. I said, put a little on there because I want to make sure it comes through. You know, and he had too much. I said, no. I want to hear it because I want that sound of a foot walking. Because what I was doing actually is showing off the feel that I was getting. Because I knew it would sound great. That would sound good on the record. Because in person you could do that. We just did it just now. You know, but I wanted it to come through on the record because it was a sound I wanted. So if the bass did drop out, you'd hear it. Just like that marching band thing, you know. I wanted it.
And you also played some kind of, no, it was not rock, it was swinging rock.
Oh, on Moose to Mooch, yeah. My manager for my band says, you ought to do something commercial on the record. I says, I don't do anything commercial, you know that. He says, well, something. And I says, well, we'll see. When I got to the date, you know, when we were running through Moose to Mooch, and I was thinking, and I was thinking, hey, why not? Let's try it. Let's try a rock beat. Let's see, just, you know, it's just a simple, like more like a jazz rock beat. Let's see what happens. And it worked. So that we made that up right there. We just decided to do that. Then we said that we would do it, you know, be on the first chorus of everybody playing. We'd do that, and then we'd take a break and go into 4 on the bridge and the whole thing. And it worked nice, yeah. So, but that was a last minute idea. That was my thoughts about being commercial. That's as far as it would go. So, anyway, that's the whole idea of that drum. After that, we get around to the rest of it, the dressing up. Now, if you have trouble, you know, it's just something. Now, it's just what I'm telling you. These things are things that I don't expect you all to do when you leave here, you know, because I'm not the last opinion on anything. You know, it's just my opinion. But I just want you to know that it paid off for me. And it paid off for everybody else I know that does it. So most of the drummers are in agreement. And Blakey, Art Blakey, all your maybe your favorite jazz drummers, the late Shelley Mann, Stan Levy, I'm talking guys that really could swing, and of the guys, Max Roach, you know, Elvin. See, I don't know how many of you ever got a chance to see Elvin from behind. Did you ever get to sit behind him and watch him play? Whenever they're playing the swing, when he plays that. He plays that soft bass drum. He does it, only his bass drum sounds like that, you know. But he uses a little 18-inch bass drum with nothing in it. Only his wife tunes it. And that's what it sounds like. Pentatonic scale. Uh-huh. Oh, that's terrible. But because I played on his drums, they're tuned awful. It's awful, but it saves a fight. You know, he doesn't have to fight with her. He lets her. She sets him up. You know, and I've seen it. She's down there on the floor, and you know, as tight as she can get everything. And he just sits down and plays it. You know, but if Elvin Jones ever does a clinic for you, if he ever does one, just for laughs, he'll have his drum set up, and you want to see something, you want to laugh, but don't say anything. Don't tell him I told you, but because you know, we're good friends, he and I, you know. So at a clinic in New York one time, I was there, and he's sitting down, he's playing, and she set up the drums, and she tuned them like she does, you know, because she has to tune them a lot because he breaks the head, so she's always putting new heads on him. So they're always too tight, you know, and he plays them just that way. And she always has that bass drum tuned about a third above his big tom-tom. Yeah. So when he wants bottom, he has to hit the tom-tom. So I was at a clinic where one of the students asked him how he tunes his drums. And you know what he did? He didn't say a word. It was beautiful. I was standing there against the wall, and I started laughing so hard. And he saw me laugh, and he started laughing, and we got hysterical, the two of us, because he realized what had happened was he didn't say, well, my wife tunes him. He didn't say anything. He just proceeded. He says, well, I'll show you. And he loosened every head up to where it was flappy, so it was untuned. Then he proceeded to tune the drums exactly the way he used to play them. See? Boom. Deep sounding bass drum, and then the tom-tom, a little bit above, all by ear, and then there, it went boom, 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 and up to the snare drum, normal. And the guy, and that was that. And he says, that's the way I do it. And he proceeded to finish the next half of the rest of that half of the clinic, playing the drums, and it sounded great. He had his group up there with him and all that. It sounded great. It sounded like the old Elvin with Coltrane when he played with Train. Then during the break, they took a break, and while he was taking a break, she ran up and tightened, put everything and so that when he came back, the drums were right back where they were again to the old tuning. See? Because the question was, how do you tune them? So he tuned them, and he saw me laughing. He says, bastard. He says, the guy won't know how you tune them. I says, the only thing is nobody asks you, why don't you still play them that way? That's all. He said, because I don't feel like fighting. And that's the reason, you don't feel like arguing about it. It's a terrible sound the way he has them, because when you sit down and play on those drums, you don't know what to do, because you got the bass drum, the range is so high that it drives you nuts when you hit it, because if you're thinking musically and thinking normally, and you're going from this tom-tom to the bass drum, and you can't. You got to go from there to the bass drum to the tom-tom. And he's got to think the bass drum as a middle range tom-tom instead of as the bottom of his set. So it's pretty weird, And then once in a while we rehearse when he's in there for a week. That's why I know his drums will be set up in there, and then when I come in with my big band to rehearse sometime in the afternoon, and whoever's drums are there, that's what I use. So I have to play with that band with that awful sound, because you don't touch anything. You don't touch somebody else's drums, and just play them. You don't retune them. So, all right. Anyway, that covers the bass drum part. So now while it's fresh, any questions about this bass drum? Yeah.
How do you play bass drum in up tempo?
How?
Yeah.
You do the best you can. You see, this pedal is not too good for me. It's not loose enough. It's a good pedal. It's not bad, but this pedal isn't free float. You can see it from the side. I use a more floating action pedal, so that the pedal just goes like that. If you just give it a kick, it'll just keep doing that. So and see, this doesn't. It stops dead right away. See, so the spring is not set the way I would like it. So, but when I'm playing a real up tempo, I actually try to play it as much as I can, because you're moving along, and from the side you can probably see I'm moving it. Half the time it's not even hitting the drum, but I feel that I have the control of it anyway, and that's about all you can do, because it's almost impossible to really get it as firm as you can at a more medium tempo. But I still try, and I say try because sometimes it's just impossible to and I don't want to get hung up on that, because when you're playing a real fast tempo, the whole idea in a fast tempo is endurance. How long can you last? So the more rigid you are with the time, the stiffer you're going to get. The best thing is to keep moving and keep moving around. The more you vary the beat, instead of trying to go, keep doing that. Pretty soon that just you get nice and stiff, but if you just playing off of it hand to hand and constantly moving it, it gets the feeling of that straight ahead motion because that's what but actually you're not ever getting into a rigid situation. So that goes for the feet too. But the only thing that has to really actually keep going and then is this. But this, you ignore this. This will just happen because you're not really thinking about this, so it just goes. The rest of it, you just keep thinking in patterns. You're listening, and you're listening to the soloist, you're listening to the rhythm, and you find that you're not even thinking about it. And that's the only way you can get through a fast tempo without worrying about it. So as far as the foot is concerned, I'm doing it. I'm moving that pedal. I know I'm moving it, but I don't know how many times it's actually even hitting the drum. But it's hitting it enough that it sounds like it's doing it. Because, you know, another thing about drums, it's a nice thing about drums in a way, is that when you hit the drum, like I always say, like the sound you hear here is not the sound you hear there. The sound actually changes as it travels. This is the striking part, and that's the sound part is on that side. The bottom head of every drum, the front of, that's why when you take the front of a bass drum head off, you've taken off half the sound. And that's the real sound. That's just like with a piano. You take the back of that piano off and hit the keys and leave everything on, but take the soundboard off, that wood that's on the outside, there's nothing, you know. Same thing with his guitar. You make that's a hollow body guitar, but a solid body guitar without the amplifier, there's no sound. So that's the sound, but there is a sound without the amplifier with a hollow box. And that's because it's bouncing off that wood inside, you know. There's a reason for all that. It's acoustic, you know. Same with a violin, it's a vibration that creates that sound. And the same thing with the drums. You hit it on this side and it makes the other side vibrate and sends the sound out. So that's not the sound I hear here. But the sound you hear on that side, the sound I hear on this side, are two different sounds. So, also, everything you're doing, like you ever play something, how many times you've played something on a cassette that you swore sounded terrible, and when you hear it played back, you say, I don't remember even playing that. And so it sounds pretty good. I didn't do that. Is that me? Yeah, that's you. It's what you did. That's actually what it sounded like. Or if it sounded, you thought it sounded good here, and it says, yeah, it sounds terrible. I thought it was okay. Because that's what it really sounded like. That's not what you hear, though. You know, you can make a roll, and it could be fair. You know, like my roll's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. This drum's got anything on it? Yeah. It'll be better without that on. But I bet you that roll, I mean, I can't even tell, but I bet you this roll sounds better to you there than it does to me here. You know, and I can always tell that because I've recorded. When I record, I've made rolls on records that I swore I couldn't believe it was me because it was smooth as silk. And it was terrible here, you know, rough. But you don't hear that. And the mic tells the truth. The mic picks up the actual sound. Now, when they put those mics underneath here, with these great engineers with their mics, everything on tight, and you play, that's what you hear, you know, because he's got it right there. But if they do it like this, from there to here, what we call ambiance miking, which is really the way to do it, then you hear what it really sounds like. You hear a smooth roll that as it travels, as the sound from there to the air travels, it changes, and it comes out smooth. You know, did you ever hear Buddy Rich's beautiful? He's just a roll boy. It's like silk. But if you're standing right next to him, you can hear it's not that silky. But it's good. It's great. But it's not that silky. But when you get away from it, it gets smoother and smoother as you walk away. So that's a nice thing about drums. It's the acoustic situation. So that's why another thing with the bass drum, you say, it sounds loud to me, or it's not too loud out in front. You'd have to really hit it hard for it to sound real loud out there. So that's why with rocks, that's why I say, why take a big drum? What do you need a drum that big? And then take everything off and stick blankets inside of it, and then you got nothing. All you got's a big drum to hold more blankets. You know, when you might as well just have a small drum with nothing in it, and hit it, and you'll get more sound than you will from the other. Because what's the point in putting the blankets in it? What do you need a drum for if you're going to even do that? You just get a box. A paper, a big cardboard box. You get the same sound. And you don't still all the money you save. Yeah.
There's a record made by Sarah Vaughan. It's called How Long Has This Been Going On? Louis Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a duo number. They're only singing, they're only playing drums.
Yeah.
And he's using the bass drum in a very strange way because he's swinging with it.
Yeah.
He's playing the cymbal figures on the bass drum. And I listened to it many times, but I didn't get the point where how he does it. It's very strange to me. It's going like boom, 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 boom.
Well, what he's doing is playing exactly what you just sang. That's what he's doing.
Yes, it's great because it's very difficult to play.
Let's see. I can't work this out, but
With brushes.
that's. I can't do it. I can't work this out. But, huh?
I got a speaking pedal. You want this?
No, they're worse. Speed Kings are too stiff. I can't use a Speed King pedal for. You got to play with it. So, Speed King is top heavy. Now I always use the. I used to use the Camco or Gretsch floating action pedal for years, and then now I play the Pearl P800, which is a cam, and it's a copy of the chain pedal. It's the same thing. It's the same guy, Al Duffy, who invented the chain pedal from the floating action pedal from the Camco. He's the one that made the chain. And then when he's now the head of Pearl production in America, in Nashville. So he wanted to make another pedal like that, and they sold the patent to Tama and Drum Workshop. One partner sold it to one, other partner sold it to the other. So he had no right to put out a chain pedal at Pearl. So what they did is he made a cam, a round thing. It's got that blue strap on it. That's a good pedal. It's very fast, and it's very smooth. And it's the same principle as the chain, only it's even smoother because there's no teeth. So it's just very smooth, and it's the same principle of a cam. So it's like rolling, And it's very fast pedal. It's very strong, and that's what I use, and I'm used to that. And this is totally different. So I can't control it as much. So you can't do everything. Your equipment also helps you in what you're doing, So you always probably have noticed that when you play on somebody else's drums, you can't always do the same things you do on your own, even though you should be able to. But you always say, I can't work the pedal, or I can't do this, or I can't. That's true, you can't. It's not, every pedal will not respond the same, and the snare drum a little tighter even. You can't do the same things you can do on it the way you do it, and so on. Even changing sticks can make things different. So that's why we all have our own sets of drums. But a lot of times I find I have to play on different drums all the time because when I travel I can't take the drums with me, so I try and I do the best I can, that's all. There's nothing else you can do. But sometimes if you're going to play on the same set for maybe 2 or 3 days and it's not yours, you get used to it. And you find other things you can do on those drums. But the main thing is to have these with you, your own cymbals. That's your sound. That's very important that you have that. And you can always tune a snare. You can always retune the drums to suit you. But pedals and things like that, Actually, you should carry your own pedals, and I just don't like to bother lugging all that stuff around. So, but when I play over in Germany or places like that, the Pearl people in Germany, they send me whatever I need, and I get the same stuff all the time. They have a list with what I use. So they send me the P800 foot pedal and the 800 hi-hat and the 700 stands, you know, and everything I use. They're nice about that. The only thing is I have to use plastic heads on the drums. So, but I don't want to walk around with a bag full of calfskin heads and all that and changing them. It's not that important, except when I'm home and when I'm with my own band and my own drums. Then I have everything the way I want it. So, and that's what everybody should do, you know. So, any more questions on this? Yeah.
How do you handle accents when you play the bass drum?
Accents?
Accents, yes.
Oh yeah. Well, you're
Just
playing.
louder.
Oh yeah, just louder. So you're playing. Here, I'll do it with the brushes so you can hear that. You're playing. So just attack it a little more. And when you realize you gotta just get up and lift your foot and smack it. That's about all you can do when you really want it loud. So I also use the biggest beater I can get. I have these old Ghost beaters, the old Ghost foot pedals. I got about when they came out, I bought them up. So I'd have them today, and it's smart because there is no more Ghost pedals, and I got all these beaters. So I bought the beaters from them, and they're much larger. They're big and they're round, and they get and on a 20. See, that's why I like a 20-inch bass drum. A 22 is good, but a 20-inch you can really hit right in the middle with the bass drum. The pedal is perfect. It's a perfect right here. This is a 20, and that thing's right in the center. So I get and that's that center sound. So it muffles itself when you hit right in the center. If you hit off to the side, you get ring. You get more ring. The more from the center you get, the more ring you get. So the more in the center, you get that thud, that direct. And that's like a muffler too. You know, it's a natural muffler. And you get the deep, nice sound from the middle, right in the middle of the drum. So with a big beater, you draw a lot more sound out of the drum that way. So that's why I like a 20, because 20 is like, you can use a 20 instead of an 18, you can use a 20 instead of a 22. 22 is fine. I mean, but I found out if you have a 22, then you should have an 18 also for small group. 22 is pretty big for small group work. It's a pretty strong bass drum. And besides, it's a lot more to carry too. It's heavier. And you got to get it in the car, a little car. So I like to use an 18 and a 20. Those are the sizes I use. Except now I'm using a 16 by 20 bass drum. Boy, it's great. It's like a cannon. And it's not, Pearl doesn't make a 16 by 20. They make a 16 by 22. But Duffy, hey Al, what can I do? I don't want a 22. Let me make you a 16 by 20. See what it sounds like. I said, great. So he said, maybe we'll put it in the catalog, you know. But don't tell too many people that you get. So, because they'd have to change their tooling, you know. Okay, now, I just want to do some playing now. I want to work with the rhythm section a little bit. I want to show you the difference between 3-man rhythm section and 4-man rhythm section. You know, so and how this we had this problem yesterday too. is that the drummers, I mean, they didn't know, or they would have done it, but I try to let them know that, you know, when you listen to the Count Basie band, for instance, that's a 4-man rhythm section. Or if you listen to like people like Scott Hamilton or any of these swing groups that where they use guitar, that you cannot play the drums. You can't play bebop. I mean, you can, but it doesn't sound good. If you're playing bebop style drums and the guitar player is playing 4/4, you know, it doesn't work. It does not do what it's supposed to do. Then you run into there's a hassle between that 4/4 time and the breathing space of the bebop feel, which is much looser, much wider and much looser. So you really should conform to playing 4/4 also. That's where you get into that sound that Joe Jones and Basie and those they created that sound. Because prior to that, there wasn't a sound like that. There was no sound like that before. There was strictly, the old bands before that used banjos or tubas. I mean, nobody was before that with that sound. And they created that sound. That was how to get a blend between drums, acoustic guitar, piano, and bass. And they did it. And then later on, when bebop started to come in the 40s, all of a sudden they'd say, how come the guitar got dropped out? Because it didn't work. When you went to the top cymbal and all that and started kicking off beats with the bass drum and that guitar playing dot dot. See, now the guitar player could start playing comping instead, playing off beats and all that. And then it works. Then it works because then not everybody's thinking in terms of syncopation rather than instead of that up and down straight ahead. So, but it sounds better when you all do it. You know, you really got to strive for that. So let's get it. Let's try like a Basie type thing. Think Basie. Keep your amp should be at a low level, and like pretty much, you know, and play the simplest chords you can. Keep your down to 2 or 3 notes per chord instead of don't make 6-note chords. Just like 3 notes or 2 notes, so that sounds like that Freddie Green thing.
Straight up.
Straight. And you play very little, just right hand, no left hand at all. And just play the tinkle and we just walk. And you play the most basic changes. Don't play nice lines. Save that for the bebop. Just play the simple blues lines exactly. And see what happens. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We'll do it again, and then when I start to do that, you quit doing that. You keep playing what you just stretch out like you normally would, and you start playing the other kind of a line, and you just start comping. So we'll start out this way. Yeah, you start playing the way you normally would like to play. Play the bebop, you know. Then you'll see how it just makes a complete change, and it works. Let's start again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You're draggy. Keep. You stay on top of me. Bass should always be a little bit on top of the drums. If anybody's going to be on top, let it be the bass instead of the drums, you know. So you should move up a little bit on the beat and let me, because otherwise it starts to get behind, you know, and it just pulls everything back. So you got to be a little more aggressive. That's important. If there's going to be anybody on the bottom, should be the drummer. Let the drummer be on the bottom, and let the bass have that little edge, you know. No, I just wanted the guitar out there. I wanted to see, because then you can get into another thing altogether, and then you could just be like a solo instrument at that point, you know, where you're just waiting for your chorus, and you don't play unless he drops out, and then you got it. So that's the way I like to use a guitar. That's why I don't have a guitar in the band, because I think it's very much. I don't want that 4/4, because I don't want the bassy feeling, because that's Basie's thing, you know, and I don't want a guitar player to be bored sitting there waiting for the piano player to drop out. If I was going to use a guitar in my band, I think I'd rather have no piano and just have bass guitar and drums and no piano at all, just so the piano player wouldn't go crazy, you know. So I think it's better that way. Small groups a different story, but in a big band, you're better off without a guitar if you're going to, otherwise, unless you're going to have the 4-man rhythm section. And if you're going to do that, then you're competing with the bassy sound, and then you're foolish. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, that's the difference I wanted to get across to you, that there's a way to play. You got to really play very basic when you play with the 4/4 with the guitar to make, and it sounds good. It really works, you know. Only you got to be more on top. Let's try a little brighter tempo and see what happens. Let's do I Got Rhythm. You know I Got Rhythm? Yeah, you know the melody to I Got Rhythm? You know the changes to I Got Rhythm? Yeah, do you know the tune I Got Rhythm?
Yeah, a little bit.
See? There you. How can you play all these tunes that are based on I Got Rhythm and you don't know I Got Rhythm? Yeah, it's funny. The rhythm changes and nobody knows the tune itself. All right, no, but don't play a bebop tune. I just want to hear the changes of it. That's all. 'Cause I want to play the 4. Yeah, the ching ching ching. I'll show you how it works when you get on top. 1, 2, 1, see how this worked nice with that kind of thing? This really gets a hell of a blend. It also just livens everything up. You see how it's important that you don't get behind it?
Yeah.
And that kind of playing. Now, if we're playing just a 3-man section, like just you and I and him, we'll say, then you could play you can bend your time, because you can be playing little more things. You don't have to even play time. You can, because between us we'll imply time rather than actually play it. You know, we'll start fooling around a little bit more. You know, get a little more into playing more offbeats and things like that. You don't have to really keep any strict time. And but when you're playing time, everybody's really playing time, then you should be
More
you,
time.
you should be more on time, you know. So, and that's how that's how it doesn't get labored, you know. Now, the kind of horn player you would listen to over that rhythm section would be like somebody like Ben Webster, or, you know, or Don Byas, you know, or all those great players that played in that style. And you get a good swinging 4-man rhythm section behind one of those kind of horns, you know, Roy Eldridge, Harry Edison, you know, that real swing players. That's what we call swinging. That's swing players, you know, rather than bebop players. Bebop, it's a totally different scene. So then you got more offbeat, more syncopation, and more off of 4, off of 2, you know, instead of off of 1, off of 3, instead of direct. But when you're playing F4, the best accents you can play, rather than offbeats, is just, you know, let's do it again. Just ding, 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 and I'll show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Accents? 4 mostly, sometimes 2, and mostly, but always on the beat, never off the beat. When you're playing 4, the greatest accents should be right on a 4 or a 2, you know, and it goes back to the backbeat, actually, with the bass drum. Nothing swings more than a boom on the beat. When you're playing bebop, then you got more the other way. Then you're without the guitar. You know, when you're not into that strict groove of jing, 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 jing. But now you guys that are playing with the big band, you understand that's the sound you want to get when you're playing those bassy style arrangements. When you're playing the other style, you don't need that, you know. But that's what you want to strive for when you're playing Sammy Nestico or anything like that. Then it makes the whole band play everything the way they have it written. It works because of that kind of rhythm feel. It doesn't work with a bebop feel at all. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. They can't find out where to play, where they're hitting, because they're hitting everything's right on the beat mostly. You know, it's mostly that way. That's the bass. That's the bassy thing. Is you know you know, ba da ba da 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 ba da da ba da ba. Everything. Heavy accents are always on that beat, on 4 and all that. They use a lot of that, and that's why it has to be that way. So you got to always think like that, you know. And you know, and even in a small group, you know, if it's a little swings like, you know, there's any kind of a thing like you got maybe, or when you're playing Dixieland, like you get a Dixieland gig, you can play this way. You don't have to play old-fashioned Dixieland. You can play with this swing style. It's even nicer. And it's more fun. You play old Dixieland tunes with this kind of a feeling, and it works out real nice, you know. And then you don't feel like you're playing real hokey, you know. You don't have to do that. You know, it's like a halfway meeting, because that's what it evolved into anyway. And then of course you got the the more modern thing, you know. attention to me. You guys are playing almost that other way. I'm playing a real wide triplet, and you're still playing like a dotted eighth 16. Think more on the triplet. Widen your beat. Really widen it. You play more. Think more in terms of like a McCoy Tyner now or something like that, rather than what you were doing before. You know, let's just try it with just us three and see what happens. And you just play, you know. But don't play vertical. Play real spare and think and pretend you're in Elvin Jones group. Think that, or Coltrane. Yeah. Try and get that kind of feel. Okay. Play free, more free. Do you know how to do that?
Leave the straight 4-bar.
No, just play anything you want.
Oh, okay.
Don't play time.
Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Closer to what I'm talking. That's just another way of playing the rhythm. You know, it's just wider and it's the same idea. We're playing the blues. There's so many different ways you can do it, and that's the hippest today. You know, you can do that depending on who your horn player is. Now, you don't want to play that way if the horn player doesn't play like that. You don't do it. You know, you got to always figure out who you're working with, who you're playing with. You know, which direction you're going to go into. All right, now you guys can relax because we got across what I wanted to get across.
All right.
So you can sit down. Thank you very much. Well, we could. You guys tired of hearing my voice for a few minutes, huh?
You can go on. It's up to you.
Well, I don't know. It's how we doing? What time are we supposed to go to?
Well,
Actually.
12:15.
Well, let's take just a few minutes because I've been talking a lot, and then we'll come back and do like a whole hour again, and I'll get into some other things. And make sure think of some good questions now of any problems you might be having. You know. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Not bad for a machine. So anyway, now what I want to do is get into some cymbal things and brushes and that, and get into some of your questions, which I'll do what I have to do, and then we'll get into the question thing. So we'll go with the cymbals now. As you can see, I'm playing Istanbul cymbals. Now, they don't pay me to sell the cymbals, so I use them this I got right here in this. Right here, I got this in Laren. What? That shop in Laren? Yeah. One day this a long time ago, when they first got these Wuhan cymbals. In America, you couldn't get them because we didn't have any, as usual. The great America says no trade with the communist countries and all that crap, you know. But we do it now. But when these cymbals, this is the old the old Chinese symbol, the Wuhan. You can get them here. You get them everywhere. And this particular time is the first time I'd even seen some of these in many, many, many years, and I was very lucky to pick out Peter Ypma. Took me to the shop, and he says, let's degrade the symbols. So this was the one I thought was the best, and I ended up with this. And the one I thought was next best, Peter ended up with. And then the rest became number one and number two. We just went through all those symbols, and that's where I've had this, and this is a lovely symbol. It's very nice, but I wouldn't use it with my big band because it's not powerful enough to take that constant pounding and shouting. So I use this for small group playing mostly, although I use it when I travel. This is my traveling cymbals. This is my second set. Then I have my first set stays in the Village Vanguard with my band. I use those cymbals only with my band because that's like a sound that goes with the band. And it's changed through the years occasionally because I got stolen, things like that. But I was always able to find something that was the same. Because one thing about cymbals is that once your ears get tuned into what you like, that's what you always buy. That's what you always get. You always end up with the same thing most of the time. You don't realize that, but that's what you're always looking for. You're always looking for another one of what you like. That's when you got something you like. If you never find something you like, that means you're always looking until you find it. But once you find it, that's what you'll always look for. Because that's your sound. See, when you strike that cymbal, that's your striking. Only you can get that sound out of that cymbal. And you say, I like that. Then that's you. That's from then on, you'll always be looking for that kind of a cymbal. And once in a while you'll find one. And you'll say, oh, I got to have that. Even though you don't need it, you want it because you want another one. Because you should always have more than one because you never know when it's going to disappear. Or it's going to break, maybe. It might crack or something. Who knows what will happen to it. But because it's, the world is loaded with people who don't care about what belongs to you. So they'll take your tools, they steal them on you. So because they can buy drugs with this, lots of drugs. So that's what you got to be careful of, So anyway, the reason I'm using the Istanbul is, are you all familiar with the original K Zildjian symbol made in Turkey, the old ones? The ones that everybody's going crazy trying to find? Well, here they are. This is it. The Istanbul are the old K Zildjian. It's exactly the same symbol made today in Turkey in that same little place by the same little old guy sitting around on the floor. They still make them the same way. The only thing is what happened was, so you understand, I'll make it very quick, is that when it was Zildjian, the Zildjian company, when it moved to America back in 1929, Fred Gretsch company, the Gretsch drum company, Fred Gretsch, the old man, made a deal for distribution in America for K Zildjian cymbals. So when Zildjian came over to America, they couldn't sell K Zildjian cymbals in America. So they made the A Zildjian. It became the new company back in 1929. They didn't plan on even making cymbals anyway. They ended up getting back in the cymbal business. So it went that way for many years. The K Zildjians were only available in America through Gretsch. And you couldn't find any here in Europe because Zildjian had the rights to all of Europe. And they wouldn't sell K Zildjian cymbals. They were selling the A Zildjian cymbal, which they were making in America, then shipping them back here. And then charging you twice as much money, for the cymbal. That's the truth. But of course they were good cymbals for many years. The A Zildjian was a great cymbal. Then when rock came on, and they started making all this heavy stuff, and when money starts talking and they start making everything heavy, heavy, heavy. And even this company has to make some heavy cymbals if they want to survive, because that's what most of the sales are. The problem today is there's not too much distribution in Europe on these. There is some. I think there's a store here. There he is. They know you? They all know you? So he can get them, but he can't get a lot of them, right? You can't get a whole lot of them because they're all handmade.
And that company can only turn out about 700 symbols a month for the whole world. So they're spread out very thin, you know. But one thing good about Holland, this country I know, has good dealings with almost every other country. Even that's why you could get these kind of things when somebody else couldn't. So, because somehow or other, this country always manages to stay out of trouble with other countries as far as economy is concerned, as far as products are concerned. And I think it's because you make important stuff here as it is with the Philips company, and you're into electronics, and then you have interesting gas and petroleum and fuel and all that all over the world. So they're able to, for trade, to get things like this. Because in America, it's very hard to get this now, even though I'm with the company, and I know that they're scuffling to take care of just America. Because these guys are so strange because of what the Zildjian people did to them when they left them cold and split. What they did is, when Gretsch lost the contract, Zildjian took it over and then closed the factory. They didn't want K Zildjians on the market because they're better than their symbol. They're still made the old way. The old way's still the best way. Somehow or other, these guys decided to start again because they're waiting and waiting for Bob Zildjian, who owns Sabian. Sabian, you know, even the two brothers argued Sabian is the other Zildjian brother. It's the same symbol as Zildjian. They're all the same. They just changed the name. So they make them in Canada, and the other ones make them in Boston. But it's the same symbol exactly. And so is this. This is the same famous, the secret process. It's the same. This was the original. It's the same one, also the same. Except this is really handmade. And the other ones are all machine-made. And they make them heavy. And these guys still make jazz symbols. I mean, real symbols. They make beautiful piatti for symphonies, and they make great jazz symbols, and they also make the rock symbols. They make a little heavier symbol too, because they have to if they want to survive. And I'm trying to teach them, get them to make a Chinese symbol, like Zildjian made for me, but I don't deal with Zildjian anymore, so they're mad at me because I went here. I mean, isn't that crazy? It's the second time that's happened. Years ago, they got mad at me because I was using a K Zildjian. Then I went to them when they closed the place, and I never took a symbol from them, because I didn't like them. They couldn't make a symbol like it. So I kept using my old Ks. And then when this place opened up, I put my Ks away and I started using it because this is it. Same thing. And they're great. They're beautiful symbols. Now all right, now that's the explanation. That's why that's what Istanbul is. I just want you to know that Istanbul is K Zildjian, the real thing. The K Zildjian made in America is not a K Zildjian. That's an A Zildjian, and they don't know how to really make a K Zildjian. That's a machine-made symbol. This is a handmade symbol. Okay, that takes care of that. That's the business end of it, just so you understand why I play these and what they are. If you like them, that's what they are, and there's where you can buy them. So he'll help you. Do you all know? You all know? I don't know. What's your name?
Dick Fisher.
Yeah. So if you know him and you know his store, he'll help you get these if you want. And I recommend them. But that's up to you.
How expensive are they?
They're the same price range as Zildjians, I think. It's just about the same.
They're cheaper at the moment.
They might, yeah. Well, they should be cheaper because they're coming here from Turkey instead of from America, and there's lower taxes and things like that. Yeah. So I think they would be a good deal, a good investment. Even if you don't use them, they're good. Symbols are an investment, you know. That's because you can always sell your symbols to somebody. That's one thing. If you got good symbols, and they don't get stolen, you can always sell them. Or if you don't break one, you know. When rock and roll, I would not use a jazz symbol playing rock and roll. I'd actually, if I were you, if you guys who play rock and have to really bang real hard, I really think you're smart. You buy the cheapest symbols you can buy. Buy junk. Really, you're better off. Because if you break you pay $250 for a good symbol that you like, and then you break it, it's broken. That's it. It can't be put back together again. I mean, you can sometimes cut a little piece out, but it's gone, and you wasted your money, and they don't say you can't have your money back because it's broke.
Phone the insurance.
No, they won't pay for that. Not for symbol. Only if it's stolen, but not if it's broken. So. When you have a good symbol, save it for your best kind of work. Buy the cheapest, buy the junk, buy those, what, there's cymbals that are just, that are crap. But they sound, and if you break it, they're cheap, and if you break one, you buy another one. And you don't feel bad. That's the main thing, is feeling bad, Steve Gadd, I could kill him. He came to me one day and he said, "Man, I keep breaking my K Zildjians. What should I do?" And I said, "Well, first of all, quit using your K Zildjians for that. And second of all, I don't even want to talk to you if you're going to come. Just the stupidity of the fact that you're playing K Zildjians to play rock." I said, "That's stupid. That's really dumb. Because you're banging the cymbal so hard. What do you need quality for? There's no quality in banging a cymbal real hard. You want a nice sound out of a cymbal. You want a good cymbal. You don't crash it. You play it. These are musical instruments." So anyway, that covers that. Also now, I find that playing in jazz especially, to use a little bit lower pitch cymbal rather than a real high pitch cymbal. Because the lower pitch cymbals, with proper definition of the stick beat and with a lower pitch, complements instruments. It makes the horns sound, it gives them brilliance, so it makes a nicer frame around it. See, if you get a real high pitched cymbal or a real pingy cymbal, you hear too much air. You don't hear, it's like empty. You hear ding, ding, and ding, and you don't hear anything else. And it sounds empty. You get a cymbal with a little spread to it, you have as a sound, a shimmer that starts to come out, and it fills up so that when you're playing, especially in a big band, because you hear the bands playing, and you got all this sound, and then you cut down to just the soloist. And it's just a quartet now. Now you're a small group. And all of a sudden you go to a ping cymbal, it seems like the bottom, everything came out, it's gone. But when you have a cymbal that's still got some wah to it, it creates like a frame that keeps a sound going while you still hear that nice stick beat. So if you go for a little lower pitch sound too, you'll get more of that spread and more of a prettier sound, and then it's just richer sounding. It's more like what a cymbal is supposed to really be. If it gets too high, it becomes in the range of the brass and a range of the clarinets, a range of the flutes, and a range of the high instruments. When you go, like if the band's going ba ba and they're up high, and you catch that with high pitched cymbals, you actually knock out some of their sound. But if your sound is lower than theirs, it becomes part of the whole thing. See, and then you hear. So your cymbals are audible to the within the music, and you still hear every note played by the horns. And it becomes like if there's 4 trumpets, your cymbal is the 5th trumpet sound, maybe, or something like that. It blends better. So I prefer a lower pitched cymbal for most of it. Then you have a little higher pitched cymbal because you got to have a contrast, But that's as high as I ever go. That's not real high, That's not a real high pitched cymbal. It's got spread to it. When I get through playing it, it dies fairly quickly. That's another thing I like about the K Zildjian. It doesn't ring on terrible and get. See? Two rivets is my little trademark. I've been doing that for way, way back. And there's nothing more driving than this. So you're playing along, noticed before when I went to that with the rhythm section, how it just gives a big lift all of a sudden. It's like a garbage can cover. We used to call garbage can covers. It's such a strange sound, but it has so much drive to it. And some of the greatest drummers in the world in the past, seems they always had one of these. And when I was a kid, I used to hear Dave Tuff or Big Sid Catlett. Most of the old black drummers used to use these. The first time because they couldn't afford the good cymbals, so they bought the junk, and the junk was what was so great. They bought the cheap Chinese cymbals, you know. And before you know it, then Shelly Manne had one, you know, and they were very popular. In the beginning, these were the original cymbals. That's all they had, and they didn't have rivets in them. And they had little ones, you know. These were the original cymbals, when cymbals first started being used in jazz. This is what they used, see? And these were originally made for war, you know. So, yeah, they were. They used to bang them together. And when they used to fight with the Persians, the Turks and the Persians used to go at it. Iranian today, you know, for the same people that are still fighting, but they don't use cymbals anymore. That's the well-aimed bomb. So that's where this thing came from. And bass players love these cymbals because it really makes the bass, again, it's a lower pitch, and it makes low-pitched instruments like bass violin, but it just makes them sing in front of that, and they love it. So I find that it's become a trademark with me. And the first one I had that was stolen from the band, the guys in the band went crazy until I got a new one, you know. And I had to have one made. And I had to go to Zildjian for that. And they didn't know how to make it. So they had to experiment with it, and finally then I went up there and we invented the Swiss knocker, what they call the Swiss knocker, which not a one is the same as the one they made for me. After I walked out of that factory with that cymbal, then everybody else said, I can't get one like yours, you know, but they should be. They should have been like mine, but they don't care that much. Now I'm trying to get the people in Turkey to make one like mine. Not like this, but like the one I use with my band. It's difficult, and they're waiting. They said I might have to go there and do the same thing and show them exactly, you know, and bring the one I have and let them look at it and study it and all that, because they've never made them, you know. And I think it's going to be interesting to get one that's actually made by hand all the way, because even in Zildjian, the one I have is half hand work and half machine. So to get one that's all hand should be beautiful, but it's going to take a while. And they're so difficult to make that they don't want to make a lot of them because it takes too much time. Take a whole day or 2 days to make one cymbal, and in that time they could make 20 or 30 other cymbals, and that's not smart business to waste a whole day on one cymbal. But they'll do it. They'll do it once in a while. And if I get one or two, that's all I need for the rest of my life anyway. But maybe 10 of you might want one, so you'd have to wait for it, but it would be worth it. If you can get one, you say, I want one like Mel's, but you should get one like Mel's, not just one that looks like Mel's, but one that sounds like Mel's. And that's what you can't do with Zildjian nowadays, because they don't care. And it's just this, it's all this. And so I would lean towards the Turkish if you really want real quality cymbals. And but there they are, you know, and so Istanbul is the name. You might see some cymbals floating around called Sultan. There was a few of those made. It's the same cymbal. I think they had to drop that name, but there's some floating around yet. Did you get any Sultans?
Not anymore.
Oh, but you did. So if you see one around that says Sultan, it's the same thing. But that's over with. This is the name, the new title. And this was changed because Zildjian, this word here, here's one of the originals when they first came out. It's written in Turkish. But that actually says Zildjiler, Zildjiler. And Zildjiler sounds like Zildjian, and Zildjian says you're not going to use that name anymore or we're going to sue you. So they quit that use and they took this. So in that way they could scrape out the name Zildjiler that was in the logo. They just crossed it out, you know, like rubbed it out, and they still had Istanbul on there. It says, you know, made in Istanbul, so they left the Istanbul on there, and they said, might as well call it Istanbul, which they did. So that's it. That's the story of the cymbals. And the hi-hats. These are 13s, but they got nice low pitch. And they're loud too, you know. That's a bottom cymbal. But today, most hi-hats, they both sound like that. You know, the top cymbal should have some sound, like a little crash sound. You get a sound when you play on it. So, cymbals. Questions? Yeah.
There are drummers who playing the Chinese on the bottom, the other side.
Wrong. They should not do that.
Uh-huh.
That is, if you're going to ride on a cymbal, if you want it for a ride cymbal, it should be this way. It's made to be played this way. If you just want to use it for a crash and you want to break it, turn it upside down. I guarantee it won't last long. Because when you put it on the holder, you got to tighten it very tight to keep it straight. And as soon as you put it nice and rigid like that and you start banging on it, it'll break. It won't take long. And if you like to throw them away, that's what you do. Billy Cobham did that. And he doesn't know anything about these cymbals. You know, believe it. He saw me play it. He even said he got the idea from me in the Vanguard, so he decided to get it. But he didn't want to really ride on it, so he found that it was louder if you hit it on that side. Because it's louder. So he put it upside down. And everybody started copying him. So there's a lot of these cymbals got broken. See, but he can afford to break them. Don't forget that. You know.
And he had the arms for it.
He also got them for nothing, so he could afford it. You know, and that's really not for playing. You want to use it as a ride cymbal, then you put it on the right way. That's because the cymbal is made to be struck on this side. All cymbals are. The minute you turn it upside down, it's another scene altogether. So if you only want it for the crash, then that's your privilege. You can put it up the other way. But if you notice when you ride on it, you can't really get a good sound. So that's why this is the way it should be. It should be suspended, you know, and it should be loose. Yeah.
Can you tell us something about ride technique?
The ride technique?
Yes.
All right.
How you do it?
Yeah. Okay. It's all based on a triplet. I'll give you something to work on so you can get a nice ride beat. And you can all do this. It's a very simple, you all know how to play a triplet. Everybody knows how to, you all know how to do that. All right, so the cymbal beat is, you can do it on the snare drum first. Right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, you know what I mean? So in other words, it's this. like a, it's like a shuffle beat, Also, this has that shuffle thing. There's a lot of call for shuffle today. It's getting popular again. Shuffle is played with the left hand. And the right hand should not play the shuffle. You don't play. Don't do that. You play. Not 6/8, it's 12/8. It's still a 12. That's how you play a shuffle. In the middle of the drum. It's just old raucous, sloppy. It's actually what it is. It's like the old days. That's what they play. Yeah. Symbols, yeah. That really can swing hard, people, it's really great for swinging. That's the shuffle. And that was the cymbal beat. But remember what I showed you? By playing this, the rest of the triplet in between on your snare drum, it'll keep this correct. And then when you drop this out, it's still going. You still got that. You'll acquire that nice wide. You know how it should be written. You've seen it written with the 3 instead of the dotted 16th. That's wrong. See, that's wrong. But that's the conception of a lot of arrangers. They write it that way, but they don't play the drums, They write the dotted 8/16, but they should really write the triplet. But it takes more time to write the triplet, so nobody bothers. So it's understood. It's just like when they write jazz in general for saxophone players or trumpets, they write 8th notes, but they really want them to play it as a triplet. So if you play it exactly the way it's written, you'll read like they got ba-da, 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 so they either write ba-da, da-da, 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 if they write it with a dotted 8th. If they write a straight 8, you play ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's not what it is either. It's ba-da, ba, ba-da-da, it's just a concept. Ba-da, ba, 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 you do it. It isn't what really is written, and it's the same thing with the cymbal beat. See, and it really should be a triplet feel, and it works with everything, except straight 8. Straight 8, you play straight 8. So that takes care of that, I think. Any other questions on cymbals, or yeah?
No, not especially on cymbals, but since we start playing drums, I always think about what's the duty of a drummer in a band. In a big band, it's obvious.
Yeah.
Like rhythm.
Right.
But there's some more duties you have to cover.
Yeah.
What is it? What is your opinion of that?
Keeping time, rhythm, and time. That's your duty.
Yeah, you're a musician. You hear tone, you hear music, you make music.
Right.
But you still have to cover this.
Of course. It's how you keep the time. See? Now, how do you know when to pick up brushes instead of the sticks?
Yeah.
How do you know what cymbal you want to go to? That's that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's your taste. That's your own head. You have to know that that's why there's 3 cymbals here and hi-hats. So that there's four basic sounds right here, out of these I can probably make 15, 20 different sounds on the different parts of the cymbals. From that to that to that to that, to this, to that, on this.
And here you have up there, whatever. You got all these sounds here, you got all these sounds here, and you got all the sounds here. Closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, half open. You know, you got to figure where you are in the music, what kind of music you're playing, where it's going. Do you want a soft, tight sound? Do you want a loud? Do you want to put heavier bass drum, lighter bass drum? You know, no bass drum. That's when the arranger will say just no bass drum. He just wants, you know, like where the band might be playing what they call an interlude, and there's no rhythm at all. It's just but hi-hat, and there's no bass drum. In the bass drum you got rests written. Then you don't use the bass drum, but you might have an accent at the end of, like where the trombones are going. You know, pop. Ding, da, 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 da. Written that way, so on. And that's what, you got these different sounds. You might want the tom-tom, you know, and so on. As far as I didn't even touch these today, if you probably noticed. Yeah. But if I was soloing, I would use them, or if I'm playing fills, I would probably be using, you know, a lot, you know. But that's where your musical integrity comes in, your musical knowledge of what's going on around you. It just comes from listening and reacting to the music, you know. In the early days, all we had was a bass drum and a snare drum and a little cymbal. That's all I owned. That's all I had. That's all most of the drummers had. So you had to make music out of nothing. And so, but basically we just kept time. Then as time went on, we had to add more colors and all that. Then it's up to your own musicality. That's why it's important to play and to be a musician. It's also important for a drummer to learn maybe some other instruments if he can, just to get the idea of notes in your head, to realize that you have a lot of notes here that you can use, you know. But I couldn't actually do it because you could hear it more if I was playing with somebody, you know. But I will do something. I'll play a solo with brushes for you, because we're going to get to that too. And you got to know when to go to brushes instead of sticks. That's also, see, this is the answer to your question, you know. But you're still keeping the time. No matter how you do all these things, the time is still in your hands.
Because you are different in a big band or in a small band. You have different situations. In a big band, you're a timekeeper in the first place.
Not true.
Not true?
No, because you have to color the arrangements too. You have to make.
Sure.
You got to make the changes from the bridge to from the first eight to the bridge to the back and forth. Different sections, different sounds behind each section. You don't stay on the same thing all the time. You have to go along with the music. You want to change the whole color, the whole dynamics. The drummer controls all that. You play soft, the band has to come down. You play loud, they have to get louder. You know, you have to do all these things with them or make them do it.
But
you know, when you want.
Without knowledge of music, you can't do this. With just playing the drums, it's not enough. You have to play.
No, you have to know the arrangement. And once you know the arrangement, that's why you shouldn't do too much reading. You should read the arrangement down a couple times and then throw it. Don't have it there. Throw that music away. I mean, you know, put out of your sight, because otherwise you keep reading it. It's best to just rely on your memory. After you've learned the basic part, put the part away. Even though you don't, if you forget something, so what? It'll come to you, because everything that's in there is also in the music. It's there to help something there, so you don't need it. You'll remember it as time goes on, and the quicker you can memorize the arrangement, the more you can do for that, and the more you can add. And above all, don't get in the habit of playing the same things all the time. You know, just because they have to, you don't have to. You can always change it.
Every time you play a fill, it could be a different one, every time, in the same place. Play a different fill every time. It's good for your own head to do that. And don't worry about what you're going to play until you play it. Don't plan it. Just play. Don't even think about it. When I have to play a solo, I don't even know what. Until I start, I have no idea what I'm going to do. None. And then you just start doing it. Just control, and then go, that's all. You know. So one night, I think Case would remember, I don't know, were you the drummer when I did the brush solo?
Yeah.
They asked me what I wanted to play on the radio, you know, with the Sky Masters. And I said, let the band rest and I'll play a ballad by myself. You know, which I did. I played body and soul, you know. And to me, I played body and soul. Some of the guys knew what I was playing. I didn't tell anybody. John Engels guessed what I was playing. He was out in the audience. And he says, "Mel, you're playing body and soul." He's one of my best friends. So, and Ferdinand guessed it. He says, "Body and soul." Huh? Yeah. I says, "Right." You know, I didn't say anything. I called it brushless. You know, because I had to give it a title, so we said brushless. I couldn't think of anything else at the moment, so that's what we called it. So,
Do it.
huh? You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I played that night. I'll do it on the tune.
on a different weekend.
Well, you wouldn't know if I didn't tell you. I could say a different tune and I'll play the same thing, and you would. I'll show you what I did that night. I'll play Body and Soul, and the way they figured it out was because they could hear there's little changes in there, little things that said, yeah, "I bet you that's what it is," you know. And I'll do it. The way I started it out like with a couple of like little cadenzas, a rubato, and then I went into the tune and played it, and then I took it out with some cadenzas on the end, you know. So I'll do it that way. I'll just play a chorus or two. So here's the way I started. I don't remember what I did then, but I mean, I remember the format, that's all, but what I played, I had no idea. So, Pim Jacobs said, "Now Lewis," and there, everybody, yeah, and I forgot to tell the engineer to turn those pots up good and loud because I'm going to play very soft sometimes. And when I heard the playback later on, that sometimes they weren't getting everything. Yeah. So, because it got too soft, and they didn't have the mics right on the drums, which is good because they shouldn't be. Okay.
the giveaway right there. Giveaway was when I said that was a giveaway, I played those 4 beats, that's what they figured. That's where it goes, ba, da, da, dee. That's always your giveaway on Body and Soul right there. There's a certain pattern that comes up whenever a soloist plays it, and it's always that same little thing everybody does. And they heard that, and that's how they figured out what I did. I just played, I played 2 holds, 2 fermatas, I played the tune, you know, I didn't play the tune, I just played the chorus on a tune, and then I played 2 more fermatas, and then just some little things added on, and then the chord at the end. So it's a format, a musical format, you know.
Do you write arrangements yourself?
No, I don't write. I don't know anything about writing. I never did. I wish I could. But I did play the baritone horn in high school. That's how I learned how to read. I never had drum lessons. I never studied the drums, ever in my life, except my father, when I was 2, he gave me a pair of sticks, because he was a drummer, and he said, here's how you roll, and that was it. Then he never showed me anything else, because he didn't want me to be a drummer. Because he knew that I'd be poor like him. So, and that's all I ever remember, you know. And so later on, like at school, I wanted to play in the band, I had to take up a horn. Because it was a little too late. I was playing drums already, and I really played them. But I couldn't read the music, so I took up the horn. So my whole approach to the reading of the music became from a horn standpoint, which taught me the values of the music, the values of the notes, and I started thinking that when I'd see something on the paper, I would think in terms of that horn, not in terms of a drum. So you'd make that kind of sound and start getting the musical sounds into everything, rather than a drum sound. And that's why I really don't like drum music, because a lot of drum music is written like drum music, and it doesn't match what's going on. That's why it's better to read a trumpet part, or read somebody else's part, or have it cued in. That's why a lot of musicians, and especially good drummers, prefer that. And a lot of them, they'll read that rather than read their own part. If it's written above and then their own part has it too, you're better off reading the other line, because you get more of an idea of what they're doing and how to really treat it musically. So it's much better that way. Otherwise, it's a little too military, you know, because drum music is, you hit a drum, it's hit. That's it. You see a half note, it's still that. Only you count 2 beats, you count another beat after that. And actually, you got to count, when you strike a drum and you hit it, but when you get a half note, you know, you're thinking like, you know, we're going the tempos, ba, da, da, da. Well, if it's the way it's written, it's, you know, but why can't it be, you know, or something like that. That's just a very basic way of doing it. So you got a half note rather than a short note. So you think that way, and it matches, and when you put that together with the horns, it all blends together nicely, you know. When you got like long notes, you know, when you got to play, where they're playing ba-dee-da-da-da-da-da-da. So you would have to play, you know, if you're playing, and they got, you know, if they're playing
playing da 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 da. They're not playing da 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 da. So you know, you gotta. And you can make the dynamics with them too. You know, it's just a matter of seeing it that way and making that sound instead of short. So that doesn't. So that way, it's a much nicer sound. You know, and these are answering your musical questions. You know, that's where the music comes in.
When you
And you're
work
still
with-
keeping the time.
When you work with Thad Jones,
Yeah.
what do you do in the band?
Well, when Thad Jones was
Yeah.
conducting,
Yeah.
I took his direction and made the band do what he was trying to get them to do. They're listening to me. See, the drummer is the leader of the band, not the guy in the front. If the drummer and the leader have eyesight, and I know what he's talking about, because I always did, they will follow me. I still have the control. It doesn't matter what he does. I can take it away from him in a second. You know. But I didn't do that. I wouldn't do that. That's musically wrong. You try and make it and understand what he's trying to draw out, and you do it, and you can control them. You and the lead trumpet player.
How long do you know each other?
Oh, I knew Thad since 1955. We met when he was with Count
You always
Basie.
play together?
No. I met him in '55, and we haven't been together now in 7 or 8 years. He's the leader of the Count Basie Orchestra now, and I'm the leader of my band. We have nothing to do with each other today except as friends, that's all.
But your band works without a conductor? You're
That's
the
right.
conductor?
Yep, we don't have a conductor. And I wouldn't want one. I don't need one. I feel much better without him. As good as he was, I like it better without. I wouldn't even want him or anybody even like him, as good as he is, in front of me anymore. Because I'm so used to doing it. It's so much fun playing without a conductor. It's so much freer. And let the band work as a chamber group. See, jazz, you don't need it in jazz, but it depends on the musicians you have. Because if you think about it, the Count Basie band, there's nobody conducting, you know.
Yeah.
But now they have a conductor. Yeah, no, he didn't even do that. You got the piano in the rhythm section. They conducted from the rhythm section, that band. But the band phrased all by listening to each other. They did it themselves. My band does the same thing. And now that the reason Thad is conducting the Basie band now is because when Basie died, the band had no direction. It was getting sloppy, and they wanted to keep it going, but the band lost its fire because it had no leader. Now they got a wonderful leader. They got Thad Jones to lead the band, so he's a great leader. So he controls them, and he's got them playing good now, and now the band sounds good. But they're still playing the old arrangements. It's still a Basie band. And me, with my band, we don't have any speakers here. I got a tape. Huh? You do? You want to hear something? You want to hear how a band works without the conductor?
Yeah.
You got time to throw a track or so on? The drums are you can see how we do it. You got a tape machine?
Cassette?
Yeah. Could everybody be able to hear it? Is there a speaker so they can hear it? Do we have time? Yeah, no, we don't. We do if you want to stay a few more minutes. Yeah, this is it. This will be good.
Okay.
That's all we need. Something like that. Here, I'll show you. Show you how band works without a. This is this will work fine. Now this first track, as a matter of fact, is a Thad Jones arrangement, and there's nobody standing in front of the band, and we're in a studio. Just got to plug in. That's all. All you need is a plug, right?
Yeah.
Here, this blaster will be good. This is all good. Fine. Yeah.
Just the
the other way around.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, play. This one?
This is a new album. It's not released yet. We just did 2-track recording.
I'd like to hear one more track because this one's a lot more complicated. And we just do it, you know, this temp we.
the trombone player.
Anyway, that's without a conductor, all that stuff. And
What's the trombone player?
that's, the name was Ed Newmeister.
Is there real good?
Oh, yeah. And Dick Oates was the alto player. And on the first piece was Ralph Lalama, was the tenor player. And this will be out soon, anyway. And we did it in the studio, set up in the normal way with just mics just all over the place, like that, just up. And just the solo mics, that's all. Everything else was just the call. That's why you get the sound of the hall. That's the old way of recording. And if you see what I was talking about, the cymbals, how when the band drops out and it's just the rhythm section cooking, how it's still very full, but the cymbals are ringing. Otherwise, it sounds like all of a sudden you lost everything. So it's still fat all the way. That's why I liked. Now that was a 21-inch Istanbul that I was playing on behind the alto, and I had my other Chinese cymbal behind the trombone. And then there's a 19-inch cymbal that I use over here. So this is 18, 20, and 22, 13, and on that you heard 14, 19, 21, and 22. But basically the same colors, almost the same sound. The 21 has just a little bit more that I need for that band, you know, and so on. But they all spread, and yet you could hear the beats, and that's the important thing. So in other words, I use medium cymbals to put it. And that's how we work without a conductor. And there's other things we could go. We could be here for 2 more hours. Actually, we haven't got the time. I'm sorry, but we can't. And that's the way we work. That's the way my band works. No, we didn't need Thad Jones for that. You know, even on his piece, you know.
You wrote the arrangement?
He wrote the first one, and the second one was written by the piano player Jim McNeely, who is now not playing with us anymore. He's become a writer. He's working on 2 things right now, some new, and that's an example of his writing, so you know what's in store. That's, you know, he's great. That's the first thing he's ever done. That's his first big chart for us, for anybody. So we're in for a big treat with him. Yeah.
And how do you get your players?
How?
Do they just come and say, I want to play?
If they come to me and ask me, I always send them to the lead men. I have the lead men hire who they want. That's how you get a band like that. See? Because I let the lead men choose their own sections. And so they get the best guys they want to play with, you know, and then I'm happy because they're happy. And, but we have the same personnel now for many years, so it's like a big family, the band now. So, and we have our substitutes. And these substitutes, if somebody should leave, they're waiting for that chair. In the meantime, they play with us, so when a new man comes in, we don't have to worry about rehearsals or anything. He just comes right in and plays. Because he knows, you know. And when you do play with us, you got to sit down and play. You got to sight read everything. There's no rehearsals for you. You're the guy that comes in and is on a hot seat. That's the way we do it. And even sometimes for me, you know, I was very sick this past year. I was in the hospital, and we had drummers that had Joey Barron and Danny Gottlieb and Kenny Washington and Peter Erskine are my substitutes, those 4. I try to get one of them. And they all come in and they all have their own personalities, but they try to make it as much, not to copy me, because they can't do that. It's impossible to copy me. You shouldn't even try. But they try to make it as best they can to fit the personality of the band so that it doesn't change too much. And I'll tell you, Gottlieb really does that very good. I don't know if you guys know what a good jazz drummer he is, and big band, because he had the experience in college at Miami University. He went down there and he played in the big band in school, and he used to send me the tapes so I could, you know, correct him and tell him things. You know, he used to always let me know when he was a kid, when he was 18, 19, and he never got much of a chance to do it all these years, but he never forgot. So he does it for me. Does a very good job. Peter Erskine does a good job. The guys say that Peter's a little bit stiffer, Danny's looser, because Peter plays so much straight 8 work, you know. Although he does a lot of small group work with John, now he's playing a lot of trio with John Abercrombie, and he's loosening up nicely. It's good for him. But he has the experience also from when he was with Stan Kenton and Maynard Ferguson. And Kenny Washington is a young black drummer in New York who never had the chance to play with any big bands, but he listened, always listened in the records and all that. And finally, he said he used to come in and hear the band and listen and listen. He'd be down there all the time. And finally, one day he said to me, "I'd like to try it sometime." And they said he did a. I've never heard him with the band because I'm never. If he's there, I'm not there. And the guys in the band said he did beautiful, real good. So he'll always be. He also is on my list. And I got him in Joey Barron, who played with Toshiko's band on the West Coast, and he does mostly small group, but he did a lot of big. He was Berkeley, and he went to school, and he played in the college bands, and he had it, and they like him too. So. And the main thing is these guys come in to hear the band all the time, so they know, they listen to the band, you know. And that's the best way, because I have to have people too, because I was very sick this past year. And I got through a pretty rough year there. And then other times I come over here, you know, when I come over to do guest things and all that, I got to make some money, you know. Because you don't make it with the band. The band is a love, you know, but there's no money in it, the big band. So these guys come in and cover for me when it's necessary.
And you are substitute for them?
Oh no, I don't do anything for them. They don't. Although Joey asked me to do something for him, I substituted for him. In fact, that's when I had my heart attack, subbing for him with Al Hurt. I never did get to the job. They had to use a classical drummer that night from the symphony in Rochester because I never got to the job. I ended up in the hospital. So I had a heart attack, but it wasn't a heart attack. It was a warning. You know, I was just tired and overworked from traveling so much last summer. But I was glad it happened because I had a cancer in my arm and didn't know it. And a very deadly one, too. And we got it just in time. So I'm here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here now.
Do you think
So
drumming is bad for the heart?
See how swollen that is? That's because it takes a long time for it to go away, for the water, the liquid. Because they had to take the lymph nodes out from here. So the water has no way to escape, so it takes longer. But it doesn't bother my drumming. Good doctors, and they catch it. They caught it in time. But another few months, and it would have been too late. So, just simple skin cancer, but I had the worst kind you can get. I didn't even know it. So, he was watching me. So, then those guys took over for me while I was in the hospital. But I was back in 3 weeks playing, even after this coming out. Underneath here, because I had a good doctor and he took care of it. He didn't cut any muscles. He just took the nodes out. And we got it all out. Everything's cool. So I'm okay. I'll be around.
Do you think drumming is bad for the heart?
No.
It's good.
It's good for the heart, as a matter of fact. It's exercise.
Well, there are drummers who are grumbling when they are playing.
Oh, that's nothing. That's from inside. No, that doesn't hurt you. No, what's bad for you, what's bad in drumming is carrying real heavy stuff upstairs and things like that. See, that's why I don't like that heavy equipment. Because for the drummer, it's bad to carry that real heavy stuff and then sit down and play, you know, and set up and fast and, you know, lifting all that real heavy stuff. That's bad for you.
Get yourself a road.
Sure, you gotta have it, yeah. But for me, when I go to work on a job, I got a 10 inches by 18-inch bass drum. You can lift it with your little finger. It's small. The snare drum goes inside that, and the cymbals go in the bag, and I carry that in my right hand and my left hand. I carry a bag, a canvas bag with a little bit of hardware that fits onto the bass drum and a foot pedal and a seat and an old-fashioned hi-hat, all real lightweight. And I go in a taxi cab and just throw it in the trunk and go to the job. And the whole thing is so small, it looks silly next to me. Because I'm big, you know. And then the little drums, and people say, "Wow, it sounds big for such a little set." And I said, "That's right, and that's all I can take." And somebody says, "Can't you bring a bigger set?" And I'll say, "You want me? Are you hiring the set, or are you hiring me?" You know, as long as I'm here and I'm playing on drums, you know. So. That's the way you get me whenever I work. And if I work something where I need a big set, then I hire a roadie to go get it, or I make them pay for it. You know, whoever hires me, or I don't go. Yeah.
When you're thinking about variation in playing,
Yeah.
I have the idea that you think it's more important the way things sound than thinking about difficult rhythm things.
That's right.
Anything like that.
I don't care about rhythms, difficult rhythms. I don't practice. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm saying I don't care about creating difficult things, because what I play is very complex anyway. And it's all backwards, it all comes out anyway. Whatever it comes out, that's what it is. You know, and you start something, you're playing along, and all of a sudden you fall into something, and it ends somewhere. You know, and that's the fun of playing, is not knowing what you're going to do. And not even remembering what you did is fine too, because you shouldn't really, it doesn't matter if you never do that again anyhow. You do it once and that's it. If it's something that's basic, you have your little tricks that you do all the time. These are things that you acquire through the years that are yours, that you use. But it's nice to be able to constantly create new things all the time. And the best way to do that is don't think about it until it's too late. In other words, that's when you're doing it. Sometimes you get into something and it just isn't working, so you turn it into something else. You immediately get out of it by doing something else. Just take it some other, but don't worry about it. Who cares? You know, that's the fun of playing, is the experimentation. You know, but don't try and work things out at home, because where are you going to put it? How are you going to work something out? Or where are you going to stick it? You know, unless you're playing in a group where everything is always exactly the same. Then you say, I think I'll make up this 2-bar break to play on this thing. And you work one out, you know. Okay, but then what do you do after that? You know, once you've played it a couple times, you still want to keep doing it? You know.
Pick another.
But then you work, but it's preconceived. Then you get mad if it doesn't work. And you get, you know, why not just play a new one every time? Let the marbles fall where they fall, you know, I mean, who cares? That's the fun of it. And sometimes you come up with something you can't believe you did that and it was so good. Then you try to do it again and you can't, because you don't know what you did. And that's good, because you'll do something else then. I think we got to call it quits, because I have a rehearsal in this 1:45. I'd like to go on. Maybe we could do it again next year or something. Yeah. Or whatever. And so I hope you enjoyed it, you know, and learned something.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.